You won't believe it, two strangers hit it off. Lissy and the Colonel embark on a romantic date, with feelings blossoming quietly between them. The Colonel is not just funny, he's a big fan of Lissy's poetic skills, making her feel like she's finally found a soulmate, something she only experienced with Candy mat at letter 3ca e so complex mat 3 mat until the letter 2 bdc letter 4 abc sedilla iq tender reflex a quarter moj mat the I mat you acute equal letter 763 not san times lo acute o stroke 3 mat pound copyright. As time went by, Lissy and the Colonel's feelings grew deeper, but suddenly, urgent war news from the front lines hit them. The night before the Colonel had to return to the army, he asked Lissy to meet him, and she sneakily showed up at the bridge, leaving both of them speechless. Gentle moonlight was just like their love, unspoken yet deeply intertwined. Under the moon's witness, they shared a heartfelt kiss. The next day, Lissy went to the train station to see the Colonel off. The sunset bathed their faces in warmth, as if his promise lingered in the air. He solemnly promised to return and marry her after the war calmed down. After a heartfelt farewell, Lissy watched him board the train to the front lines. Scott seemed to sense something and suddenly woke from his coma. He immediately opened the antique desk's hidden compartment where dusty letters. After reading, he understood Lissy and the Colonel's story and felt genuinely happy for them. But upon seeing the Colonel heading to the front, a bad feeling, he quickly booted up his computer to search for information on the Colonel's unit, and the chilling result showed that the Colonel had died in battle on July 3rd. Based on the letter's dates, Scott knew the Colonel would die the day after tomorrow. Ignoring his health, he rushed to the post office. He hoped to persuade Lissy to stop the Colonel from going to the front. But when he rushed into the post office, firefighters were busy extinguishing flames. Police were maintaining order around, and Scott knew that if he didn't hurry, Lissy would receive devastating news. At a critical moment, he risked his life to sneak in through the back door. Just as the mailbox was about to be engulfed by flames, he tossed in the letter. From there, it was all up to fate. Meanwhile, Lissy returned home, dazed and worried about the Colonel's safety. Scott hadn't replied, and just then the Count dropped by. Her father insisted she go out with him again. Though she resisted, Lissy politely went down. As she was to tell the Count about the Colonel, Scott's letter arrived. Lissy then told her sister to get luggage, eager to stop him. She begged the Count to take her to the station, but he remarked that nobody knew why Lissy was so desperate to go, especially since her father had forbidden. But at that moment, Lissy wouldn't hear of anyone else's words. She hurriedly took her horse-drawn carriage to the station, only to realize that the direct train to the front was no longer running. With no other choice, she bought a ticket for half the journey. After disembarking, she pleaded with the coachman to take her, promising to offer all her belongings, but nobody wanted to risk going to the front during wartime, and after a while of waiting with disappointment, finally a coachman agreed to take her on a risky ride. After an entire night of trouble, Lissy finally arrived at the medical station on the front line. Though she still couldn't give up hope, she followed the soldiers' directions to search, and she really found the Colonel in a perilous state. The Colonel had once promised to marry her, but at this moment she realized that promise was on the verge of being broken. The Colonel gently wiped her tears, but Lissy couldn't change the course of history. He gradually closed his eyes in her embrace. Meanwhile, Scott woke up from his dream, as if he had experienced a time-transcending cycle. Upon returning home, Lissy quietly hid back in her room, filled with sorrow as she wrote a letter to Scott, lamenting her failure to stop the Colonel. Scott felt her pain. However, the post office had vanished, leaving Scott unable to comfort her with a reply, feeling powerless and heartbroken. After he told his mother about what had happened recently, she also advised him that it was time to return to reality, as his wedding with his fiancée was drawing near. Scott didn't answer, but his fiancée expressed her concerns. After reading the letters, she assumed Scott was lying. Just then, the hidden compartment made a noise. Scott opened it to find a new letter from Lissy, along with a photo of her and the Colonel. To their surprise, the Colonel looked exactly like Scott. Lissy's heartbreak from losing the Colonel was evident. After losing the Colonel, Lissy fell into depression. She wrote numerous letters seeking comfort, but Scott never replied, leaving her disheartened. Feeling down, she decided to burn all her past letters, wanting to bid farewell to happier times. Just then, her fiancé accidentally found a letter that had been dropped. The belated comfort appeared right at that moment. Lissy finally saw a photo from Scott and was amazed at how similar they were. Every encounter is not by chance. She put her photo with the Colonel into the hidden compartment. Right at that moment, Scott was confessing to his fiancée. His fiancée looked at the photo, feeling a whirlwind of emotions, as if she were the outsider. Seeing her crumble, Scott decided to come clean. The absence of love would merely bring about even more suffering and torment. In the end, his fiancée decided to release her hold, bestowed a farewell kiss upon him, and then walked away, leaving Scott all by himself. He couldn't move past it for a long time as time slipped away. Eventually he returned to the estate, greeted warmly by the black housemaid. Unfortunately, the kind old lady had died. Yet stepping into Liss's room again, Scott felt transported back a century. A century ago, Lissy brushed her hair as if hit by a current. When Scott reached out, she felt his hand on her shoulder. At that moment, they both felt the transcendent touch across time. Just as Scott was lost in that sensation, the black housemaid walked in with a box. The box contained all of Liss's letters and her poetry, which the old lady had found in her youth. Before passing, she decided to leave these treasures to Scott. After receiving the box, Scott began to sift through the letters, and to his surprise, he found that Lissy had become a teacher, and her surname had This indicated that Lissy had never married, and at the bottom of the pile there lay a slightly faded colour photo. After leaving the estate, Scott slowly walked to the back cemetery. Though he had just felt their presence, in reality they were long separated by life and death. He approached Liss's resting place. He respectfully laid down flowers when he suddenly noticed something hidden beneath the weeds. He uncovered Liss's final epitaph. The epitaph said, "Without love, I'll remember forever." It deeply moved Scott, and though they never met, the sentiment made him vow to stay single. If you love this story, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel for more exciting content.